The Midnight Bargain. Welcome to Tales by Okwe, where every story carries a whisper of truth and a shadow of warning. Tonight's tale is not just about wealth, it is about the price hidden beneath it. Listen closely, because sometimes the fastest way out of poverty leads straight into darkness. Zainab still remembered her mother's voice. It was not loud, not harsh, but it carried the kind of weight that stays with you long after the speaker is gone. Money that comes from the shadows will always drag you back into the shadows. Back then, Zainab had nodded like every obedient daughter would. But hunger has a way of erasing wisdom, and desperation, it makes even the strongest warnings sound like distant echoes. By the time Zainab turned 24, life had stripped her of almost everything. She lived in Ibadan, in a cramped one-room apartment with cracked walls and a leaking roof that sang loudly whenever it rained. The landlord had been patient at first, then impatient, and finally ruthless. 3 days ago, he had thrown her belongings outside. Her clothes, her mattress, even the small wooden box that held memories of her late mother. Everything scattered in the dust like her dignity. Inside that same chaos sat her younger brother, Musa, thin, weak, silent. Hunger had taken his energy long before it could take his voice. That was the moment Zainab stopped caring about right or wrong, because morality does not fill an empty stomach. Every morning, Zainab woke before sunrise and headed to Bodija Market, one of the busiest places in the city. She sold fabrics, lace, ankara, and cheap imported materials she bought on credit. From dawn until evening, she stood under the burning sun, calling out to customers until her throat burned. "Fine lace, original Ankara, come and see." But no one stopped. Customers walked past her stall like she didn't exist. Meanwhile, other traders with bigger spaces and louder voices swallowed the crowd whole. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into failure. Debt grew like a living thing, tightening around her neck. One evening, as the market began to close, Zainab sat quietly beside her unsold goods. Her eyes were swollen from holding back tears. That was when she noticed the woman. She had seen her before, but never really seen her. Her name was Mama Sade, an old trader who barely made sales, yet always appeared dressed in expensive wrappers, heavy gold jewelry resting comfortably on her neck like it belonged there. Even more strange, she drove a car far too luxurious for someone in her position. Mama Sade walked slowly towards Zainab and stopped. "You are killing yourself under the sun," she said softly. Her voice sounded dry, like leaves rubbing against each other. Zainab forced a smile. "It's the only way I know, Mama." The old woman leaned closer. "No," she whispered. "It is not the only way. It is just the slowest." Zainab's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" The old woman glanced around, as if making sure no one was listening. "The real money," she said, "does not come in the daytime. A pause. It comes at night." Zainab frowned. "Night market?" Mama Sade nodded. "There is a place outside the city. It appears only at a certain hour. The buyers there are not like these ones." Her eyes gleamed strangely. "They do not argue. They do not price. They pay whatever you ask." Zainab leaned forward, her desperation rising like fire. "Where is it?" The old woman smiled, but there was something unsettling about it. "It opens at exactly 2 a.m. Go there and you will never struggle again." Zainab's heart began to race. Finally, a way out. But Mama Sade raised a finger. "There are rules. Zainab listened carefully. First, never ask anyone their name. Second, leave before the clock reaches 4 a.m. And third, the old woman's voice dropped lower. No matter what happens, do not look under the tables. Zainab hesitated, but only for a moment, because hunger is louder than fear. That same night, she borrowed money, hired a small taxi, and followed the directions Mama Sade had given her. She expected a forest. Instead, she found something impossible. A vast open space filled with dim lantern lights. People moved everywhere, but silently. No shouting, no bargaining, no laughter, just movement. It was the quietest market she had ever seen, and somehow the most unsettling. Still, she pushed the feeling aside and set up her stall. Within minutes, her first customer arrived, a woman dressed in elegant blue attire. Beautiful, but something about her eyes felt empty. "How much?" she asked. Her voice was flat. Zainab swallowed, then took a risk. 400,000 naira. The price was outrageous, even she knew it. But the woman didn't blink. She simply reached into her bag and dropped bundles of crisp money. Cold, unnaturally cold. Then she walked away. Zainab's hands trembled. In less than 1 hour, she sold everything. Everything. By 3:30 a.m., her stall was empty. Her heart was pounding with excitement as she packed up and left before the deadline. That night changed everything. Within weeks, Zainab became rich. Not just comfortable, rich. She paid her debts, moved into a beautiful house, bought expensive clothes. Even Musa began to recover. For the first time in years, she felt in control. But something else came with the money, something she could not explain. It started with tiredness, deep, heavy, unnatural. Then came the cold. Even under the hot Ibadan sun, she felt chilled to her bones. Her skin lost its glow. Her hair began to fall. Her reflection changed. At 24 years old, she looked twice her age. Still, she ignored it. One last visit, she told herself. One more night, then I stop forever. That night felt different. The air was heavier, thicker, and it carried a faint smell, like something burnt or rotting. Zainab stood weakly behind her stall. At 3:45 a.m., a man approached, tall, dressed in rich traditional attire. He wanted everything. She calculated quickly and told him the price. He paid immediately, but as he handed her the money, his fingers touched hers. Zainab froze. His skin felt wrong, not just cold, but like lifeless. Startled, she dropped the money. It scattered across the ground. Panic rushed in. Time was running out. She needed to leave, but the money, she couldn't leave it. Without thinking, she knelt down and reached for it. Then she saw it. Nothing. Where the man's feet should have been, there was nothing. His body simply ended in empty air. Her breath stopped. Slowly, she looked around. Other customers stood nearby, and one by one, she saw them. Some had hooves, some faded into smoke, some had no legs at all. The ground beneath them was not clean, it was stained, dark and crawling. The entire market fell silent. They had noticed her. Every head turned, every eye locked onto her. The tall man bent closer, and when he spoke, the sound did not come from his mouth. It echoed inside her head. "You looked." Zainab didn't scream. She ran. Behind her, they didn't chase. They glided, like shadows carried by wind. She reached her car, jumped in, and drove without looking back. Something slammed against her window, hard, leaving a dark, smeared mark. But she didn't stop, not until she reached the bright lights of the city. The next morning, she sought help. An old spiritual man listened carefully, then shook his head. They were not buying your goods, he said quietly. They were buying you. Zainab's heart dropped. Every money you collected, he said, was paid with your life. Silence. You are running out of time. There was only one solution. That evening, Zainab gathered everything, the money, the clothes, the car, keys, all of it. She poured fuel over it and lit a match. The flames rose quickly, swallowing everything. As the fire burned, something changed. Her body felt lighter, warmer, alive. By the time the flames died, everything was gone. She was poor again. But alive. Zainab stood there, watching the ashes. And for the first time in months, she breathed freely. That night, she made a promise. Never again. Because some wealth is not meant to be kept. My people, if a door opens too easily, ask yourself why. Because not every opportunity is a blessing. Some are traps wearing gold. Tell me, if you were in Zainab's place, would you have taken the offer or walked away? Like, share, and follow Tales by Ope for more stories that stay with you long after the end. And remember, if money comes in the dark, look closely at the ones giving it.